Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Fridays, wherever you may be across this great country or around the world. Speaking of around the world, I'm headed to Israel next week. It is going to be a crazy travel schedule for me. We will not be having very many OutKick shows between now and the next couple of weeks because I'm basically going to be on the road for 3 straight weeks all over the country and indeed around the world. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I'll be doing Clay and Buck from Israel, not next week, but the week after. But I'm on the road basically each day of the next 3 weeks. So that is where I'll be. By the time I come back, we'll be close to football season really being underway. I cannot wait. But we got a bunch of stories to hit right now. And then I will be live with Martha McCollum on Fox News at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, 1:30 Mountain, 12:30 Pacific. So you can watch me here. You just heard me finish Clay and Buck. Boom, you can see me on Martha McCollum. I'm also going to be on Sean Hannity tonight. So super busy media schedule in general. The Olympics are officially underway. The opening ceremony is taking place right now. Crew, let me know if anything super interesting has taken place there. Some of you are probably watching them. They are in Paris. They are coming down the river Seine River. I always screw that up. In Paris, city with many bridges. You ride on, I believe I get this correct, thanks to my French high school teacher, the Bateau Mouche. I believe basically is all of the boats that go down the Seine River, and that is what is underway right now. It's a unique way. Usually the individual countries march into a stadium one at a time with a flag. They are doing it on boats for basically the first time ever. This is the first normal Olympics since all the way back in 2016. Because 2020 got postponed and then they had it in 2021, but there were still a lot of COVID-related protocols, didn't have big crowds, didn't feel normal. This one should at least feel somewhat normal. Yesterday, I talked about Steph Curry and Steve Kerr endorsing Kamala Harris and why I disagreed with it. One of you in the comments asked a good question. You said, hey, would you feel the same way if a athlete endorsed Donald Trump at the Olympics? Yes, I would. I would feel the exact same way. And that's because I don't think when you are representing the United States of America at the Olympics, I don't think you should endorse a political figure. I'm voting for Donald Trump. You guys know that. I imagine a lot of you watching this right now are voting for Trump. Some of you may be voting for RFK or Jill Stein or Kamala Harris or Cornel West or whoever the other candidates might be. That is your right. It's your right to endorse them, to advocate for them as you see fit. I'm a marketplace of ideas guy. More power to you for doing so. But I don't think you ought to endorse any of those people at the United States Olympics either. That's because you represent the whole country. Why alienate anyone? And I mentioned this yesterday, but I was just talking about it on Clay and Buck, and I think it's an important message. 1992 was an election year. The U.S. Dream Team is one of the most beloved American teams of my life as a sports fan. If you are around my age or older, probably younger too, you remember 1992 when Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, John Stockton, Karl Malone, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, all of the best players came together after we lost the Olympic gold medal in 1988. If I remember correctly, in 88, there was some questionable officiating. We said no longer, everybody else is playing their professionals. We're not just going to play amateurs anymore. We're going to put our best possible players out there. And we dominated and destroyed everyone. The summer of 1992 was also an election year. Bill Clinton, Ross Perot, and George H.W. Bush Sr. were running. A trio of contenders, much like Trump, Kamala, and RFK Jr. right now. I don't remember a single American athlete in 1992 speaking out in favor of any politician. I think if that would have happened in 1992, overwhelmingly the American public would have disapproved of that. I am standing on principle here. When you represent the United States, you represent everyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent. Everyone should be rooting for the American teams to win. Why alienate anyone by putting yourself aligned with any particular side? As I said yesterday, I'm sure the left-wing sports media is going to ask a lot of athletes their position on the election. And maybe some of the PR people, maybe some of the athletes' representatives will watch this clip as it reverberates around the information social highways all over the social media sites. Just say, this is my advice for you, I may or may not endorse someone in the 2024 election, but right now my focus is on doing everything I can to win a gold medal for all Americans. I'm not going to make any political statements right now. It's a perfect answer. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, try to bring everybody into the big tent of American exceptionalism. USA, USA, USA. Steph Curry and Steve Kerr did the exact opposite of what the Dream Team would have done in '92. They did the exact same, unfortunately, as what the U.S. women's soccer team did. They are alienating sports fans such that some of you right now don't care whether the U.S. men win now. Some of you are actively rooting against them. Maybe a few people are rooting for them more. But in general, I think you probably alienate 75% of American sports fans by endorsing any political candidate at all. Even people who are big Kamala or Trump people, by and large, don't think this is a good move. That's the camp that I would put myself in. And I hope other teams will learn from this stupidity, in my opinion, from this divisiveness from Steve Kerr and Steph Curry. Like, it doesn't surprise me that they're voting for Kamala. Why not just announce it in September or October when you're back in the United States and you are standing on your own behalf as opposed to representing the entire United States of America, literally in United States of America attire? My thoughts. Couple of other stories. Charles Barkley has ripped the NBA owners as TNT has officially sued the NBA, arguing that they are entitled to be able to keep part of the NBA broadcast rights. He went on Dan Patrick's show, Charles Barkley did, and he said as follows in a statement. I'll talk about Barkley a little bit more, but he said, clearly the NBA has wanted to break up with us, meaning TNT, from the beginning. I'm not sure TNT ever had a chance. TNT matched the money, but the league knows Amazon and these tech companies are the only ones willing to pay for the rights when they double in the future. The NBA didn't want to piss them off. I'm reading a statement from Charles Barkley. It's a sad day when owners and commissioners choose money over the fans. It just sucks. I want to thank everyone who has been at Turner for the last 24 years. They are the best people and the most talented, and they deserve better. I also want to thank the NBA and its fans, the best fans in sports. We're going to give you everything we have next season. Good statement from Charles Barkley. I believe, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong on this, he also told Dan Patrick that Barkley does, a 10-year, $210 million contract with TNT that pays him $21 million a year. That makes Barkley, I believe, the highest paid person in all of sports television. It also means he's made orders of magnitude more as an analyst of the NBA than he did as one of the 50 best players in NBA history. And by and large, he's done it without even having a social media profile presence at all. Reason why I bring that up. First of all, that's money well spent by TNT. $21 million for Charles Barkley is well-deserved, if that is, in fact, what I saw, the headline of how much he makes. I like that it's out there publicly now because that's more than Stephen A. makes. That's more than Pat McAfee makes. That's more than Colin Cowherd makes. I want the dollar figures to keep getting driven up as high as they possibly can for talented people in sports media and otherwise. But I do think Barkley is primarily right here. He's right in the larger context that really what's going on is the television networks are getting overrun by the big tech money. And I told you this yesterday. I don't know if we clipped and shared it yet, but Amazon's market cap is right around $2 trillion. That's how big the company is. Warner Brothers is around $20 billion. That is, Amazon is so much of a Goliath compared to Warner Brothers. I said yesterday, I think that Amazon should just buy Warner Brothers. And I laid out that argument. Guys, let's make sure that gets clipped tomorrow. But basically, I said HBO is the most valuable asset Warner Brothers has. They also have a lot of different sports assets. TNT has the NCAA tournament, along with TBS and True TV. They also have now part of the college football playoff. You could eliminate all the uncertainty about the NBA by simply, if you were Amazon, buying Warner Brothers, squashing in one fell swoop this lawsuit that was filed today in New York, and I think adding Harry Potter, the Game of Thrones, and combining it with Lord of the Rings, that's a pretty powerful trio that would help in the years ahead go head-to-head with Disney, which owns the Marvel franchise now, as well as the Star Wars franchise. Just my idea. That, to me, seems like the clear solution. But I think Charles Barkley did a really good job speaking out in favor of the fans. And I think he's right that this is about the NBA needing to get more money out of streamers and wanting to get Amazon involved in the relationship. So in another 10 or 11 years, Amazon, which will theoretically be quite a lot bigger in 10 or 11 years than it is now, being able to step forward and continue that. Couple of other things. This went viral, and when we share a shorter version of it, I will have it put forward. I haven't commented on it. Big Ten Media Days. Biggest story, by the way, that came out of SEC Media Days, I thought, was Lane Kiffin and Paul Feinbaum going head-to-head during their interview. Thought that was very entertaining. We shared and wrote about that at OutKick. I would say the most viral clip of the entire Big Ten team, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the one that I saw go most viral, and I didn't share it or talk about it. UCLA's new head football coach, DeShaun Foster, basically froze this week when he was addressing the media in Indianapolis at Big Ten Media Days. And you could actually see almost the panic set in as he was aware that he didn't know what he wanted to see. And a lot of people have ripped him and made fun of him. I'm actually maybe going to be the exception here. I saw that and felt bad for him. And let me explain why. If you haven't ever spoken in public for a living, I think Seinfeld used to do this bit. He would say public speaking was the number one threat in all of American life. Second biggest threat, fear, was dying. So he would do this whole bit back in the day where he would say, so for purposes of a funeral, people would rather be the person dead in the casket than the person delivering the eulogy. And public speaking is something that maybe some of you watching me right now, if you know that you're going to have to speak, you are just absolutely terrified about that happening for days in advance, knowing that you're going to have to stand up and speak potentially in front of a large audience. Maybe it's not even that large of an audience. It can be really intimidating to do that. When I was a kid, I had a little bit of a trepidation or fear. I watched this clip with my boys, my two youngest who were here in the house, the DeShaun Foster clip, and my middle son, the 13-year-old, said, oh man, this is like when we have to get up and say a poem in front of the class. I don't know how many of you ever had to do that. We had to do that when I was in grade school. We had to memorize all sorts of poems, and you had to stand up in front of 20 people and recite it. He said, this is like when you have to memorize a poem, and about halfway through, you just completely blank because you get so nervous and you're afraid of how people are going to respond. I actually saw this and felt bad for him because he's clearly not a guy who's had to speak in public very often. And you could see that panic sort of set in, DeShaun Foster, and a lot of people just eviscerated him on the internet over this. I actually had the reaction of, man, I feel bad for this guy. And it makes me want to root for him. Maybe that surprises you, some of you, but this is not something that he's done, I am presuming, on a regular basis. And it's a bit abnormal to ask a guy who is regularly talking to football players to suddenly stand up and talk in front of thousands of people. Again, he's the UCLA coach. He clearly panicked, and he froze there and ended up talking about how, well, UCLA's in Los Angeles and USC is also in Los Angeles. For those of you who don't know, I mean, it was really kind of a big panic. And a lot of people have teed off on him. I actually think it's indicative of a fear that most people have, and he just hasn't done it enough. And the one thing I would say to UCLA is they should have had him out in front of groups of people working on this more. And if you know you're going to freeze up a little bit, just have something written. You know, politicians all read off teleprompters nowadays, by and large. I was just at the Republican National Convention. Almost every speech is projected in two different directions so that people can read directly off of teleprompters. A lot of what you see on television on a day-to-day basis is just somebody reading the glass in front of them. I never have a teleprompter for any of this show. I don't have a teleprompter for any of my hits on Fox News. I don't particularly like them. I've talked about this before. I don't know if you can see this if I tilt it a little bit, but this is me, every note that I have for the 3 hours of radio I just did and this show. Like, that's it, just a yellow legal pad where I jot down notes. I would rather have a sort of a topic sentence and then just build around it. I think the last time I read off a teleprompter, we did an OutKick show last August, if I remember. Some of you watched it on Fox News. Tommy Lahren, Riley Gaines, Charlie Arnault, Enos Cantor. If you remember having seen that, that's the only time in the last year I've read anything off a teleprompter. But even people that you think are good at public speaking, oftentimes everything is laid out in front of them and they are reading 100% an address. That doesn't happen by and large, at least that I've seen at media days. So I actually find myself rooting for DeShaun Foster to succeed because everybody piled on and absolutely attacked him over that. So he's UCLA's new head football coach. I just want to mention that if we clip it. I felt bad for him, and I actually think that he will get better at public speaking, but everybody decided to come after him. Last thoughts here as we are rolling through the program. What you are seeing with Kamala Harris right now is, and some people are going to say, well, you criticize Joe Biden talks for a living, and he reads off of a teleprompter. And when you are the president of the United States, your job is to communicate to the entire nation. And if you can't do that, you're not capable of doing the job. DeShaun Foster's job is not to talk to thousands of people every single day. It's to motivate roughly 100 football players and prepare them to play games. He has to get better at communication because that is a part of the job, but it's a relatively small part of the job in the grand scheme of things. Okay, Kamala, you are seeing a level of protection, the likes of which we have never seen when it comes to arguing what exactly Kamala's responsibility was for the border. Direct quote, Joe Biden in March of 2021 said Kamala would be leading our efforts. He said it twice. She was leading the efforts on the border, and she failed. You're also hearing a lot of people say, well, she never raised money to bail out BLM protesters in Minnesota. No, that's completely wrong. It's out there for all to see. And also, it's still up and still active when it comes to donations. Also, she supported defunding the police. She also is against fracking. She has failed in basically every major decision that she's ever had to make. They're trying to pretend now that she's not responsible for anything that happened with Joe Biden's administration. That's a tough argument because the only reason that she's the nominee is because she was the vice president of this administration. I don't know that we've ever seen a more significant attempt to rewrite her history, but I do think my co-host, Buck Sexton, actually pointed out quite strongly today on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. He said, wait a minute, what you see going on here is being refuted by Twitter in real time because all of the data is out there to reflect that they are trying to rewrite history. And so this is more self-evident now in the 2024 election cycle than it would have been in the 2020 election cycle when Democrats basically captured all of social media and were able to censor for their political advantage any critics of their political persuasion. So look at the facts, actually do your research, wonder yourself, think for yourself, why would they not want this out in the public domain and see what is actually going on? Finally, there is a debate over debates. There was one debate already on June 27th. Donald Trump knocked Joe Biden out of politics, out of the presidency, ended his political career. Right now, there is a debate scheduled for September 10th on ABC. The Trump team now is saying, wait a minute, we scheduled those debates with the existing nominee. At that time, we thought Joe Biden. Now that Biden's not in at all, we are going to wipe this clean, and we want to renegotiate for new debates. And Trump has proposed a debate, for instance, on Fox News. And Fox News has put out, hey, Martha McCallum, who I'm about to be on with here in 10 minutes, Martha McCallum and Brett Baer could be the moderators of those debates. I think that would be a great choice. I think Martha McCallum and Brett Baer would be very fair and would do a good job. So now they have to negotiate a whole new process under which that would be taking place. All right, breaking news out there, according to Adam, the Dolphins and Tua have agreed to a 4-year, $212.4 million extension. This makes Tua the third highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Congratulations to Tua. 212 divided by 4 is $53 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, the big question, and Adam, I don't know if those specifics are out there yet, is how much of this money was guaranteed. I told you that Tua throwing to Tyreek Hill, was just a huge coup that they added him. And being able to basically have, I think, the most explosive wide receiving core in the NFL made this even more of a incredible situation. By the way, I'm looking right now, 167 million of that guaranteed, which would basically be 3 years and change. And so if you look at who the receivers are out there right now, the question has been, hey, how much of this is a function of having Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to throw to? I think that's the best duo of receivers in the league. Certainly when Tua's protected, he can make big-time throws. Is Tua the third best quarterback in the NFL? No, not close to it. I would put Tua somewhere around 10 to 12 if I were being honest. And there'll be a lot of criticism of him. I don't ever buy into criticisms like that, because what's really going on is this is a function of when your contract comes up. Every time a new quarterback has a new contract come up, they get paid more. So congratulations to Tua. Incredible success story. He made it into that second contract. $167 million guaranteed, third highest paid quarterback in the NFL, according to reports. Again, I'm reading this directly from Adam. I think the Dolphins probably had to do it. These dollar figures, because the salary cap is increasing, are going to keep skyrocketing. And really what this is representative of, if you think you have a top 10-ish quarterback, even in the AFC, where you have to deal with Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, among others, Justin Herbert. I mean, you have got, and we'll see how good he is in year 2, C.J. Stroud. There are a lot of really good quarterbacks in the AFC, and many of them are super young. Trevor Lawrence just up the road there in Florida. But congratulations to Tua. Major payoff. Major injury, remember, at the end of his career at Alabama. I like Tua. I enjoy watching him. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you made your boy a lot of money. We'll see whether the Dolphins finally have a guy who can at least start to suggest maybe he can be the second best since Marino. They've been looking for a replacement for a long time. All right, I got Fox News now. I love all of you. I'm about to get on the road. I'll be on the road a lot. I'll see you guys back soon. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I am Clay Travis, and this has been OutKick, the show.